What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, TTSP Time, Part 2. Stephon Gilmore, the Buffalo Bills cornerback, should he stay or should he go? A huge question that will be surrounding the Buffalo Bills heading into the 2017 season. And I have done a lot of research on this. I've looked up every scenario, what the Bills should do if they decide to do this. What direction should they go in next? Excuse me. And there is I'm going to go with this on two separate angles. They decide to keep him. Let's just say that they decide to keep him. They come to an agreement. The Stephon Gilmore contract, if they decide to put it together, would obviously be a front-loaded contract. They'd put the beef of the contract in the front and then paying him the back end, the later years in his career, a lot less. Hopefully, you would think. But given what I had just stated in part 1 of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast today, where I went inside the cap for the Buffalo Bills, if the Buffalo Bills were to sign Stephon Gilmore to a front-loaded contract, they are so handicapped by their salary cap this season that a $15 million deal for the first year and the second year would bring the Buffalo Bills down to $9 million for this season before the draft, before free agency were to even get started. So that is, without them moving other parts around to get more cap space. But if the Buffalo Bills did decide, to keep Stephon Gilmore, that would then put them at $9 million. So virtually, if they didn't decide to touch any other contracts, restructure any other contracts, if they decided to keep, or if they just, at that point, they would have $9 million to work with. I think Stephon Gilmore is going to be gone. I don't think that they're going to keep him. I think franchise tagging him would be a mistake. If you decide to franchise tag him at this point, he would obviously stay for this upcoming year, but there would be no real expectation. Your chances would not be better of bringing him back next year as opposed to this year. In actuality, the chances of that would even be worse, being that they have other guys up for contracts. Basically, a lot of the mainstay players on this team, the Stephon Gilmores, Tyrod Taylor, Sammy Watkins, those guys, Sammy Watkins next year will be in the rumblings for a new contract. So, So, I anticipate that they should let him go. I anticipate that he will go, and he will go to the highest bidder in the 2017 free agency. The Bears have a lot of cap space. Cleveland Browns have upwards of $100 million in cap space to work with. So those are teams that will look to get him. Maybe Atlanta, maybe if he wants to go to a contender. I don't see the Buffalo Bills bringing him back. Another reason why I don't see the Buffalo Bills bringing him back is because I think that there are options available to replace him that come much cheaper, and those options would be in the draft. One guy that I really like, besides Jabril Peppers at 10th overall for the Buffalo Bills, is Bama corner Marlon Humphrey. And obviously, besides who I talked about yesterday, Clemson wide receiver Mike Williams, another guy that I like is Marlon Humphrey, the corner from Alabama. Easily one of the best cover corners in this year's draft. Man-to-man, he is a great corner. He's taller than corners of the Buffalo Bills of years past. He's fast, 4.4, 4.5 speed, played on the best team in college football. They missed out on going back-to-back. Clemson spoiled that for them. But, Bama is the consensus prototypical number one program year in and year out in the NCAA. And Marlon Humphrey has been one of the better corners lining up against some of the best wide receivers in college football. So I like Marlon Humphrey a lot. I think that if he were to be available at 10th overall and Jabril Peppers was not, he would probably be number 2 on my board, considering that they would not have Stephon Gilmore. Replacing a corner like Stephon Gilmore with a rookie is not really the most redeeming thing to do, but with the new CBA, the Buffalo Bills would save quite a lot of money replacing Stephon Gilmore with a rookie rather than deciding to keep Stephon Gilmore. So I think Stephon Gilmore will go. Now, his production dropped off from years past up until this year, and that was a question asked to me by Samuel White in on the Facebook post of the Thomas Take. Samuel asked me, why was there such a drop-off in comparison from years past to this year? And the reason why, I feel, is due to their lack of depth at the safety position. Guys like Aaron Williams going down, guys like Jairus Byrd leaving and not replacing guys like that after a 3-4 year span, that obviously is troubling. Corey Graham is long in the tooth. Duke Williams is suspect at best. Jonathan Meeks has shown time and time again that he can't cover virtually anybody. So there are some real questions about their safety position. Right now, they have virtually no safety whatsoever. They had guys playing safety that were once corners. And in Rex Ryan's scheme under the 3-4, your corners are sort of left out on an island. And that was kind of the pun that was built into the Darrelle Revis narrative of Revis Island in Rex Ryan's scheme. Rex put him out on there on his own to make plays, and Darrelle Revis did that year after year after year. And that was something that Ronald Darby had success in doing, but I really think that the safety position from year one in Rex's scheme to year two got worse, being that the injuries happened, the protection over the top was not there. And I can compare it to the New England Patriots, because the New England Patriots have Malcolm Butler, who obviously is most known for making that play in the Super Bowl. But say Malcolm Butler is covering the wide receiver, okay? He's covering the wide receiver one-on-one, but they put Devin McCourty out there to shadow Malcolm Butler and to shadow the receiver. And that is what has worked time and time again, not just with McCourty and Malcolm Butler, but with the Rodney Harrisons and the Ty Laws and guys like that in that scheme. It has worked time and time again with different players, but the same scheme. And with the Rex Ryan scheme being a 3-4, you're relying on linebackers to blitz constantly, and it puts the cornerbacks out to fend for themselves, out for the safeties to fend for themselves. And when the safeties are not up to par with the majority of the NFL, when the safeties that are playing safety on your team are not actual safeties, that's a real problem. And it's a problem that I'm going to talk about from now up until the draft, that being that head coach Sean McDermott was a former safety at William & Mary, being that they brought in Gil Byrd to be the defensive backs coach, a guy that has been in the NFL since the mid-'80s as a player/coach, that much experience, I think, will help the Buffalo Bills transition from that 3-4 to the 4-3. Maybe the Buffalo Bills already know that Stephon Gilmore will not be back, and they want the experienced secondary coaches at One Bills Drive to help a eventual rookie come in and take that spot. That is quite possible heading into the 2017 season. I think that there is a highly likely chance that whether it be the first round pick or the second round pick, the Buffalo Bills will select someone to solidify that secondary, maybe even at both rounds. Maybe even in the first round and the second round, they'll decide to bring in, maybe even in the third round, a guy that I like a lot, that'll probably be in that second round, third round range, is Justin Evans. He's a safety for Texas A&M. If those of you do not know who he is, look him up on YouTube. He's a hard-hitting safety, tracks the ball really well when it's in the air, tracks the ball really well when the opposing team is deciding to run the ball. He closes in on the ball carrier with great speed, great acceleration, and great acceleration while covering a receiver. I see him as a possible player that could be heading to One Bills Drive in the 2017 NFL Draft. I would love to see that. I think he's a good player. So, Stephon Gilmore, stay or go. I don't see much chance of him staying. I'm looking at paperwork now that I have in front of me. Stephon Gilmore is looking at a top 5 cornerback deal in the National Football League. And they're putting out predictions. All the analysts and stuff are putting out predictions, none of which have him coming back to the Buffalo Bills. Not one. I don't want to say never say never. I have to say never, but I just don't see it. The value of pass defenders has continued to rise with the fact that most offenses are pass heavy, and one corner cashes in virtually every year, and I see that being the case for Stephon Gilmore. He's entering his 6th year, his 6th season in the NFL. So really, it could be a $14 million per year deal. And I talked about years past where the Buffalo Bills have front-loaded contracts. They can't do that in this situation because their cap is so strained. Deciding to let Stephon Gilmore walk would put more money on the books for the Bills. Long term, he's not really in the Bills' plans. He's entering his 6th year. Really, he has 3-4 solid years left. And I think the Buffalo Bills should try to get that guy that could be here for the next 8 to 10 years rather than a guy that was here for 5 years and then a huge raise in pay when really Stephon Gilmore showed that he needs the over-the-top protection in certain schemes to be successful. How he would fare in Sean McDermott's scheme, his numbers career-wise are comparable to that of Josh Norman, but I don't think he is worth the amount of money that Josh Norman got in free agency last season. And Josh Norman proved that he wasn't essentially worth the contract that the Washington Redskins gave him. So time and time again, we see that over and over again. Corners going from one team to the next, the change in scheme, and the rise in pay equals a mediocre result. So that is my take on Stephon Gilmore and the Buffalo Bills' decision, whether he should stay or whether he should go. I think he should go. It would cause a void on the Buffalo Bills defense, but the Bills are transitioning once again from a 3-4 to a 4-3, and I think a rookie player would fit the rebuilding process of that defense. And yes, it is a rebuild. Unfortunately, it is a rebuild. But I think that they want to put the right players in the right scheme, and putting Stephon Gilmore in $15 million a year contract just is not in the cards for the Buffalo Bills right now. So that is my take on Stephon Gilmore. I am Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take. Tune in to part 3. I'm going to preview the new UFC 211 main event. Junior Dos Santos will be challenging Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight belt in a rematch. What is my take on that fight, and what is my take on the UFC's heavyweight division?